can hear you. And we are on. I believe we are back for part 2 of a 4-part mini-series.
Absolutely, we're live on part 2 of YouTube. If you're with us, if not, tucked in, go find the link for part 2.
And I understand that Twitch just keeps rocking.
Yes, Twitch does keep rocking. It's just had the nice little be right back. So, yeah, you guys are talking about pit stops. I think 600 managed to skip a stop by sort of going to wets a bit earlier than everyone else. I think what was the discussion you guys are having.
Yeah, it's just there's been a lot of talk about the length of the pit lane and transit times and things like that. So it makes a big difference if you can reduce those number of pit stops and the number of times you have to transit that area.
Yeah, they did well. I think the 600 car was on the same strategy as the 89 car before they obviously ran into their troubles. They were the main two that hit and went on to the wets, and then by the time they were ready to pit again, it was the right time to go into the slicks. So they managed to get through it nicely, and that's how they initially got ahead.
Lucas coming right back up onto the back of the 600 here. So I just caught that last attempted pass, and I know about Megan's penalty. Yeah, I think like you say, Tom, he's going to be a bit more circumspect with trying it around the outside. Probably just wait and keep the pressure on for a few laps, see if we can wear Megan down.
Absolutely, it's another one of the cool things that ACC does is that you get that film of dust on the windscreen gets a little bit dirtier as the race goes on, and as the sun comes down, that'll start getting pretty challenging to manage.
One of the many different things that get simulated, not just the sound physics or things like that. We get the level of dust build up on the windscreen as well.
Absolutely. Luke's got a pretty good run on Megan here. Grabs a bit too much curb on the inside of Blanchimont, so I don't think there's any risk of a position change here. Megan still feels the need to run a bit defensive on the way in. So but manages to sort of not compromise the line on the way out too much. So this battle will keep going on. Ferris Stanley has gotten that gap to Sasha down to 10 seconds. Shady Samuel is within a second of Nathan Wilson. It's all starting to kick off a little bit.
Good to see that that we've got this level of competition after 6 hours. We've had some fantastic finishes though over this series. And through the GT3 Cup as well. Some amazing races. Some of the most spectacular that I've seen, with such close finishes, such competitive cars, all on the final lap coming down. I remember with Pip and Dylan Tan, I think it was. That race at Bathurst was quite something to behold.
And I remember the Suzuka 10-hour as well. It was that finish was probably a lot closer than it needed to be, but after 10 hours to be separated over less than 10th is always pretty exciting.
Okay, not sure if anyone else has seen that, but
yeah.
Might be a little bit of an issue there for Jacob Weatherburn and the Bin Chicken racing car. That's taking off.
It's happening to a couple of cars, I'd have to say. But I love the reverse rake that car ended up having on the way. It's all getting a bit challenged to pass. So that's is that Lucas Burst in front of Megan D? It is. So there's been a pass there at some point. And, they've got a blue flag in front of the Bentley. So wait, sort of see how that managed to transpire. It'll make Lucas and the Group B garage very happy to see they no longer have a pink and white McLaren in front of them. They can just go and run their own pace now.
The question is, can Lucas pull ahead and pull away? We saw earlier Megan was tucked up behind Ashlyn Reynolds for most of an hour stint really, and Burrs has been similarly tucked up behind Megan now for probably the best part of 30-40 minutes. Can he now pull away?
That gap at the front stretched back out to 9.5 seconds. So Bruno Gallo just finding a bit of pace towards the end of his stint.
Despite these two battling for position, P3 and P4 going pretty hard, the gap to second and third is still around that 27 to 30 second mark. So they haven't really lost a huge amount of time while battling each other. As we can see, it looks like yellow flag for car 42.
It's the Allianz Pro car again.
Yeah. Exit Blanchimont.
Zach Graham trying to keep out of everyone's way. I think he's making a bit of a beeline from the pits based on that line.
You gotta be careful there. The game does like to ping you if you cut across there. We'll watch that. It doesn't look like anything's popped up. He might have gotten away with it because he went straight into the pits there, but I know there's been a few times in sprint races when drivers have collided and then just cut straight across the grass, and the game has pinged them quite harshly.
I remember Pete Chalmers being disqualified at Misano for being spun around, then taking the shortest route to the road, and that game deciding that you cut way too much and got disqualified.
Yeah. Across that little infield section there,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes. Nothing you can do other than the race director can undisqualify you, but damage is done.
Yeah, sorry guys, I've just stepped away to check on the server and see what's happening, but it all seems to be hunky-dory from my end, but
Yeah, it's I remember doing this at Silverstone a little bit. That's what? That's Yoda coming into the pits and
roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
need no roads.
There's not much you can do. I mean, there's all the little hamsters running around the wheels, and that's still happening. Then yeah, just gotta cross the fingers and hope that it's all good. I feel like every time I've been in the commentary box, we've seen Layla behind the wheel here for Team Iris. Obviously, it's part of a 3-driver team. You're going to be pulling a lot of stints, but I'm assuming she would have gotten out the car at some point.
Yes.
Cluna's been in the car. Seen him there. But yes, maybe she's probably just getting a lot of stints. Maybe she's not available tomorrow, so she's just bashing out all the stints.
Yeah, it could be.
But apart from one little whoopsie cut with the 101 kart, she's been pretty busy. George Cook here in P6 in the FPF's Evolve Racing yellow car that Leo, who was in the box just before, is also a part of, running in his own little world at the moment. If that's the way he likes it, then all good for him. Luke Johnson about 4 seconds behind. So you definitely, Megan D hasn't sort of drifted off the back of Lucas too much. Still only about half a second.
Yes, looks like two very evenly matched drivers and teams, but also the same sort of situation that we were discussing when Leo was here before. Or perhaps it was earlier than that, I can't remember. But when you've got two of the same cars, two evenly paced drivers and running similar setups, it's very hard to pass when you don't have a clear car strength, whether it's fresh tyres or your car's particularly better in one section of the track that you can get a move done. So I might continue with those two, Burrs and D. Oh no, it has happened. I don't know, sorry if it was mentioned. Jacob Weatherburn. Weatherburn,
Yoda.
oh no. Oh dear.
Yoda!
He has gone and got himself, that looks, okay, yep. Maybe that was just a bad camera angle there, but a stop-go 30, and if you weren't paying attention, pit lane speeding penalties are not being converted to time penalties. So Jacob's going to have to serve that, which is going to be a very, very painful trip to the pit lane. That might be the first one, I think that's got a stop-go 30 for pit lane speeding.
I think I've seen one before, but it's the first one we've seen in sort of that sort of, Pro Silver class echelon.
Yeah.
And McLaren trying to do a bit of a wheelie all the way into the chicane.
Now, I believe it only looks like this for us, right? It doesn't look like this for the actual drivers as well. I believe that's how this sort of...
I think a couple of drivers, it depends
or...
on who you are, is being affected. I mean,
okay.
I know I've just had a message from the guys in with Jacob Weatherburn that they seem to be pretty heavily affected. You can see that in the way their car's behaving, but it kind of is what it is. Everyone's sort of got the same little thing in front of them. At this point, it's sort of make sure, you give heaps of room to all the cars around you so that, if things weird do happen. I don't know if that jumping off was actually real or not. But yeah, at this point, it's sort of, you got to drive a little bit of safety in hand. Make sure you got a bit of a gap to the car so you can react if you need to. Definitely not something you really want to be thinking about 6 hours into a 24-hour race. You need to keep that brain power.
It's very wide on the exit of 9 there from Burrs. The places that you can just sneakily push track limits, but also it can bite you if you too many liberties with it.
It's the edge of the little drain on the edge of the curb is the track limit. As long as you got a little bit of tyre on that, A-okay. Play on, do what you need to do.
Yes, we've got Avids or Hyped Up on Twitch chat saying there a few his teammates talking, saying it just depends on who you're spectating, depending on who's struggling with the desync or lag, whatever you want to call it. So hopefully it gets resolved soon. We don't lose anyone.
We've got the absolute brains trust getting onto it, trying to work out what the best course of action from here is. Regardless, this race continues on. Peter Papaionou, who's made a return to ACC after a long little break. It's been a long time since I've seen that name running around in a GT3 car in ACC. He had some really good pace in the first stint that I was behind him. You know, he absolutely was not slow. He's definitely gotten back into that pretty comfortably, pretty quickly. We'll follow him down Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, we've missed having Peter around. We've missed a few guys. Shout out to Dan Dura as well, who unfortunately was going to be racing this weekend, but has had an absolute nightmare with having his new house built.
That's never happened before.
No, it's never happened before, and he's just been stuffed around between the telecom and the builders. Long story short, they didn't dig the pit and connect him up to the internet, and then they tried to connect it up to his neighbour's house and said it was fixed. So he has been absolutely screwed. Hoping Dan gets back racing with us soon, but it's great to have Peter back on board.
And, Glenn will be back shortly. I assume he's gone to go and... And I think, given the way this is going, that's a drive-through for the 600 car. They've probably got some track limits warnings. But we will just wait and hold and see what the admins would like to do here, because obviously things are getting a little bit challenging. We'll wait and see what they'd like to do. Megan D behind Thasby as well, so she's had an off somewhere, unless it's just because you can see she's still right behind. Oh no, that's a different car. So yeah, there might have been an off somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. We just had word that it might have been a pit stop that's dropped her down.
Yes, that'd do it. And maybe the DT's for speeding. But that'll sting. That'll bring him in range of George Cook. I'm not sure how far behind they are. That timing tree is not particularly helpful, but...
Well, it looks like Cook's 2 laps down on Megan D, so that should be an issue. You'd never trust it? Yeah, that's also true. Everything ACC does well, the one thing that they just dropped the ball on is the timing tower, unfortunately.
It's not like a racing game to get that sort of thing wrong, as Megan goes around the outside. I think that might have been a blue flag car. Taking its sweet time getting out of the way. Following Sean Brimblecombe here in the Milky Way Porsche. Running in P23 at the moment, just behind Yoda in the 645 car, who's served that stop-go for speeding the pit lane. And cars are coming in left, right, and centre. Look at the way that McLaren caught up the back of the Porsche there.
Yep, so just a quick public service announcement for everyone out there. If you're watching or listening to us and you've got teammates in the car driving at the moment, please hang in there. The server has been checked and rechecked and then checked again, along with the server logs. It's not under any strain, but that doesn't mean there isn't a networking issue somewhere else. So please bear with us. My advice, I'm by no means technically informed on these matters, but if you are connected to the server, my advice would be to stay connected to the server. That would seem like the logical thing, but see how it goes. Hopefully it will improve soon.
Seems like it's restoring a little bit now, which is good to see.
It's like, I don't know if you mentioned it, sorry, but Megan D in to serve that drive-through penalty, or just finishing serving the drive-through penalty. It's listed as Alexis Bowen now, so we'll see. Maybe that was a pit stop. We'll see when it updates.
Yeah, it's yeah. So they've served a pit stop. Yeah, I'm just really struggling to work out what's happened there. That's a driver change. So Alexis is going to have to serve a drive-through now. So I'm not sure how they got past. Thasby got past them, unless they've served an accidental extra stop. As we can see, 623 is stopped on the exit of Blanchimont.
Yes, well, you can pit without serving the penalty if you've got the laps to still serve the penalty later on. That's not where Grant wants to be for much longer, though. There's a bit of a gap coming out after this 991 car.
Go in reverse, yes. Yeah, race leader has entered the pit lane. The Red Rebel Racing car has gotten moving again. Oh, Shady's got to drive through, speeding in pit lane.
So here we go. Got a few more pit stops coming in. See how this plays out. I've just noticed, I don't know if we can get this back up or what setting it's on, but can we get the HUD, please, Mr. Crick, that shows the weather forecast?
Oh, you're not going to say that there's going to be some precipitation, are you?
Well, I don't know, but I'd try to stay across these matters, you know. It doesn't look like there's going to be any time soon.
No, it looks pretty sunny. As much sun as you can have at 6 o'clock in the evening in the Ardennes Forest. Alexis Bowen has served their drive-through, and they've still got a 10-second penalty there. So they didn't serve the 10-second penalty in the pit stop. I'm so confused. I'm assuming Megan's made a mistake somewhere. Managed to keep it out of the wall. As the 191 car comes in to serve their drive-through.
Very interesting indeed. Maybe because the drive-through overrides the 10-second penalty, and if you opt not to serve the penalty in the pit stop, so not serve the drive-through, it doesn't serve the 10 seconds, so you just get the pit stop and then you serve that at a later time. I mean, it's still there, so they'll presumably still have to serve it at some point.
So, in case you haven't seen the announcement, if you're a spectator in a car, please leave the server just to try and give it as much capacity to deal with the cars it's dealing with. Everything seems to be okay at the moment, but please leave the server for the time being.
Follow the correct protocol.
Follow the protocol. Make sure all that stuff gets done. And if that can't resolve it, we may resort to a red flag, but we will provide further information as that comes around. We're going to follow Lucas Burse, who is double stinting in the Group B Garage McLaren.
there's not much we can really do, unfortunately, but we thank you all for bearing with us.
I think we're back in things being relatively okay at the moment. The AVR car comes into the pit lane. Shaw Madison at lap 157 has had enough. We'll see what Lucas Burse will decide to do with that information, and that'll put... So obviously Terry Rayton in the 999 Laundry House car was leading the race. They pitted a bit earlier than everyone else. Lucas Burse also comes into the pit lane, so we'll wait to see what Mohammed Thasby in the GSR esports car decides to do. He's got another 30 seconds to gap to Lucas.
So it looks like the 999 car is going to retake the lead. Coming up to the bus stop chicane now. Should comfortably get out ahead of Madison. The gap was about 10 seconds before the pit stops. See the sun starting to set as well. Track down to 19 ambient, 20 degrees on the track in the partly cloudy conditions. Waiting for Madison's car to start rolling in the pit lane. And
that's the Laundry House car has just gone past then, so the AVR car now moving. It's just leaving the pit lane now. No penalty for speeding in pit lane for those guys.
no, we don't know that. It normally pops up as you get to the end of the pit lane. Remember, doesn't it? Rather than just like the...
I just watched the AVR car cross the line and nothing came out. So we'll see if Matt Lamb is taking over the car from Lucas. We'll see if Lucas got the entry right. And all looks okay for now. So we'll wait to sort of see where Thasby is relative to the 600 car. That's probably the biggest thing we're going to pay attention to.
I would have thought Thasby would be well clear given the 600 car serve to drive through. There we go, looks like the gap from Rayton to Houlihan just crept out a little bit, 13.5 seconds. So, see how these guys go over the next stint.
That 89 car on a completely different pit cycle strategy. Running in P7 at the moment with that purple lap, but they are, as I said before, on a completely different pit cycle. They'll be mid-stint at this point. Ferris Stanley doing a sterling job on that 0TC Lambo at the moment, coming back after one of the all-time collisions.
How do you feel about that? A virtual mirror attached to like the top where the normal, I guess, like glass mirror, rear view mirror would be. How do you feel about that?
I think it makes sense given if we look at the back end of that that Lamborghini, it's all, there's nothing much transparent in the window, so a mirror's not going to do too much for you.
Okay, maybe I'll rephrase that. positioning of it. Normally when I see like a virtual rear view mirror, it's like in the center console, you know, next to like the seat and stuff, as opposed to where the actual mirror is normally.
I figure it's one of those things where, you know, if you if you moved it around in the same car, you'd probably get a bit confused. But if you got into this new car and that was where it was, you'd work it out within about 5 seconds that that's what that's doing. But it's almost like those the new Audi e-trons and stuff that have cameras instead of side mirrors. So you have to, you know, there's actually a little screen in that little tiny front corner of the front window. And that's where you look. That's where you look to sort of see what's in your blind spot and stuff now, instead of into the mirror.
Right, I didn't know that. That's cool. Technology.
Extra money to spend on your car.
Oh, look, companies are always looking for ways to get more money. Who was it? I can't remember if it was... I want to say it was BMW, but it could be someone else. But we'll go with BMW because they deserve shade. They made heated seating as an optional extra for your car, for one of their latest high-end models. And the heated seating was installed in the car, but you had to pay a subscription fee, an annual fee to BMW to unlock the accessibility feature of being able to use the heated seating. That just feels wrong to me.
And you know exactly why they've done it. It means they only have to produce heated seats, they don't have to produce non-heated seats.
Yeah. So heated seats are standard, but you just have to pay a fee and we'll digitally allow you to access them. Surely the optional extra part just makes sense to say, hey, all our cars now include heated seating. Surely that is more of a marketing win, right?
I mean, it's got a BMW into everyone's headlines.
Board here with Jamie Kosa, P14, chasing down Taylor in the 700 car, about 1.5 seconds back. Really start to see the shadows taking over down to the bus stop chicane now.
Yeah, that 555 car, they were running in the top 6 or 7 for a big chunk of the first sort of 4 hours. And after that drive-through, they sort of had a couple little bits and pieces of incidents that have sort of meant they've dropped down into the upper reach of the top 10. So it is a pretty speedy group of people, and he'll be hunting down Chris Taylor in a 700 car. Chris Taylor, no slouch himself.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can get into a little bit of a spiral like that. You can have a bad event or, you know, like a drive-through penalty or an incident, and then just mentally takes a toll on you, and then you're just off by a couple of %, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and there's a little bit more time here and there, and all of a sudden, after a couple of hours, you think, wow, how did we end up here? And it was all started by a small little chain of events. There's a name I haven't seen in a while in chat. Braden Ross. Hope you're doing well, sir. How is Mullock an octopus? Is your question. Can't reveal secrets. He's had several surgeries. Some say to add extra tentacles. Some say to remove a third nipple. I mean, we'll
What about the beak?
You decide.
What about the beak? Octopus have beak. Did you know that?
That can be today's fun fact, yeah.
There's your bender fact for the next Enduro. John just mentioning in chat that with that lag, unfortunately, the pit limiters weren't engaging, which probably results in a couple of those drive-throughs that we saw, which is a genuine shame. And all right, so Diabol's just explain what happened to the 600 car. Sorry, I haven't had a look at chat for a while. They got a drive-through for track limits. The drive-through took them over their stint timer, so they got another drive-through for that. And they've also got that 10-second penalty that needs to be served that obviously they didn't get to in the pit lane. So a lot going on for that 600 car in a very short space of time.
Right, but maybe it doesn't, but I thought if you drove through the pit lane, maybe it's because you serve a penalty, doesn't reset it, but I thought if you drove through the pit lane, it reset your stint timer.
Don't know. There you go. Obviously,